shit. And so ultimately, the duality of any concept splits itself, and where you think they're connected, they're actually reflecting in the other direction from this like parallel symmetrical, but it's dichotomic, so it's actually asymmetrical according to how we're actually seeing it, but we see it like as a perfect mirror in this world. Like, it makes sense when you reverse it and look, you get two things and you realize they're being projected from the same source, which is equally divergent from this whole reality. And that's the true like fulcrum that this reality splits on. But it's also our mind, that wherever your mind is, the fulcrum changes. So it's like a weird, it's like a hologram that we're looking at based upon reflection of information unto itself, which is basically math. If you could draw it all out, it's like the information itself is mapped out like numbers that go into these various spectrums, and you're drawing out kind of like dimensional range limitations of these media that are kind of like these substrates of knowledge that exist in some type of conceptual higher space, or maybe as neurotransmitter percentages in your brain of activation, like just a neural net algorithm that lights up like the universe, if you will. Okay, maybe one more. It's kind of funny. Oh yeah, I don't know what's going on. Something's playing around with. All right, I guess I gotta wait. Oh shit. Oh shit. Wow, so that was aggravating. Wow, so that was aggravating. YouTube's basically frozen today. There's probably some background noise, it's like some excavation and stuff going on. Hello, everybody. Hi, Daniel. You're a little weird there. um, Maybe contact the email or the Patreon or message on the Facebook or Twitter. I don't really like using the social media at this point. There's a lot of people. It's a lot of weird stuff. Everything's monitored. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff going on. It's hard. If you really need to, we can try to. You can send me an email. Oh, excuse me. I can't. It's like dirt in my mouth. I can't respond to everything. I tried that in the first 2 years and pretty much burned myself out to the point of literally losing my health. So pretty much recenter after profound augmentation. Aren't you glad we all suffer? It's an interesting name. Um, I actually did a talk yesterday, which I might put forward, but I went into so many deep areas that I haven't really been kind of trusting the. I don't know. It's weird. What's up? And we can talk about stuff we feel, stuff we know, and we can interpret things that are going on. But there's this delicate learning process that I'm not trying to disrupt, and I often kind of overwhelm or just go into some crazy area. Um, but it's like ego death. I'll try and give a recap. It's like a half hour long yesterday. What we go through when our information system, this virtual construct inside of all of our heads that we, without realizing, are using, it's a product of our brain to understand reality instead of reality itself, because whether it's philosophically impossible or whatever it is, when that changes to such a high degree, when more of it, when new information comes in that requires us to then look at all that we've known already, these filaments of information, like a algorithmic matrix, a construct of information, like tic-tac-toe or something, and now we add in a few lines, and well, we have to change this and put that there. It's like the old operator system. When more of the energy is required to change the things than it is to understand it, we feel a loss, and that loss of energy is the quality of life goes down. So we're at this seesaw where we can add more energy, more information, but we can't overload our ability to process that and integrate it and be able to remain stable. And that's kind of why I said some of these talks I don't put out, because they might be more destabilizing in the sense of not necessarily me, but just the fact of too much information, because I've like biologically put too much information, or I think more. I've been doing this for years, 20 years or more, since I was a kid, a child, and so it doesn't tire me out the same way. The things that used to tire me out, it's like, oh, there's this blind spot, or this in between one track to the next, and it's this dark unknown, and I can talk up to this point, but I don't know what really goes on there, and so we'll go this way with the information. All that was done differently in a way, with the experiences that myself and others have had. There's no way to go through those experiences and continue to hold fear and continue to give power, or allow one's, you don't give your power, it takes it in a way, but as well we're giving it, but unknowingly giving it, and so it's kind of like it's fake taking to something that's unknown, to something that we can think about, but then this leads us into an area of our understanding where it goes off the charts of what we've experienced in life, like the visible map of what is in the video game, and to shy away from that. When we do that, we end up in this dark void where we only have a small window of what we know, and everything else that happens pertains to stuff we don't have the power to handle. And now we have these midwayers, these people that are reading and writing the notes and the laws and interpreting it for us, just like the other system where you have guys taking the divine wisdom and interpreting it and then giving it and disseminating it to the people. It's a kind of a religious process. But I talked about a lot of that yesterday, and I don't know, I hate editing. It's like a half hour, 40-minute talk, and it's like with somebody else, so we're like going back and forth a little bit. I really hate editing, but the concepts are all in there. I'm just gonna finalize that response. I really didn't go into it because I'm just gonna continue to go. It's like ego death, and there's information processing, observation, self-observation, all these things you have to go through in order to kind of not rebuild yourself, but understand why there are these cycles of change that are happening that we're not aware of that result in unpredictable outcomes. Which ultimately, because it was like the first two steps in a hopscotch game, they put like random symbols and numbers, and so we never know where we're actually at. It's like in time, 20 hopscotch rounds or jumps later, we don't know what the actual numbers are because we counted up from false numbers. And so the ultimate thing is that once we see so much has changed down to basically everything, the beginning, you have to go back and influence yourself in the degree that you were influenced as a child, meaning it's like growing up and having your childhood dreams kind of changed, or you're made to understand they never existed. And so then I went yesterday into it deeper, that ultimately we're becoming not recentered, but in a way not adapted to, but in a way equalized around or calibrated to basically a central organizing feature of reality that is non-local, that is decentralized. It's a 0 point that's equally accessible from every point in space and time, and everyone will eventually know that. And we've been living off of a scarcity model for everything: resources, knowledge, love, where the source is choosing to give that power does it exist, and we kind of have to get in line. Then again, the midwayers move in, and it's like, okay, well, they're the ones that are holding it, creating that artificial scarcity. But then for people to get out of that, they have to realize that you can ask for it yourself, you ask and you give, or the universe gives, and that nobody can do anything about that, except for confusing people. But then from there to where we don't know, and we're in that state where like we're basically helpless. We're like helpless things, um, in a way, children really, spiritual children. And then so all that goes through whatever practices, augmentation, unveiling, spiritual experience, complete mental collapse, which is usually somewhere in there, kind of a nervous, a breakdown of your mind, whether you have to go through a nervous breakdown or you just realize your mind is failing to grasp what reality truly is and it's realigning things in a new way, which is again kind of painful, especially if you fight it. But in that whole system and process, one has to go from basically being asleep and kind of more comfortable into knowing and all that stuff that goes in there. And there's a variety of ways one goes through that. And ultimately, there's from the minimum to the maximum, a spectrum of what will have to be gone through by various percentages of our species in order to equalize our knowledge, our ability to remain in a stable format in the truth, which is at this point just extreme emotional challenge. It's the reality that we're basically not in it's a slightly more hostile situation than people think. But again, that's just to say, I don't know, if you got into the woods smelling like food, a bear is gonna come find you. It's the same thing. Maybe that's some of the ideas in ancient texts as far as beasts in the wilderness seeking the human souls. It's the same thing. Well, and they're spiritual beasts seeking souls. So I'm not going to drag that one on. Maybe I'll put out the very long chat I did. So, aren't you glad we all suffer? How do you recenter after profound augmentation? Everyone's going to go through something, and there's a set pattern that the majority of people will go through, and within that, it's like a curve. The best thing is to not resist, to not entangle with problems, ultimately to allow, to not look for a fight, because any distortion, okay, so maybe that's the takeaway, the recentering, any distortion that we give into because we just have to, or whatever the problems are, it's going to make a wave that turns into a mini tidal wave later on. So don't do that, and then you'll have the least amount of problems, for lack of better words. That's basically what it is. We're all capable of going through this. When we react basically not like animals, but like crazy people, even if you know you're going crazy because it's a crazy world, when you act like that and feed into it, it gets so much worse, like it's this thing that wakes up. You don't have to do that, just don't give in to that, and then allow the other, or once you see the other, give into that, which is the true you, which is stabilized version, and that's all we can do. Everything else is separate, where you are, what your various issues, the kind of industrialized aspect of human living in society, that's all various to everyone, but ultimately it does kind of try to heal itself. I talked about that as well yesterday, how we're creating these problems and we're not really changing, we're losing the problems, and then certain things happen as a result of that. So apparently Wicker is a safe chat app. I hope that's not like the video games. Anonymous and encrypted chat. The tall white albinos. You mean the tall white, the Nordics? So apparently they play a large role in intelligence and tech and social management, so that we're not animals, but not like we would be, but others then would want us to be animals and so on. And so there's apparently a large role of those beings that have a larger lifespan, greater ability to, like, very high intelligence, and they see us as more emotional. We need to control our emotions if we want to be capable of interacting in this place in any kind of predictable manner. If your emotions are still unpredictable, this reality will be unpredictable, and that's a game in a way. It's not really for the one going through it. We kind of have been led to believe that that's the reason for this, to just explode with emotion and be here and seize the day. But if you do that too much, it destroys you, it bulldozes you, it rips you like a merry-go-round that goes too fast and everything flies off. And as well, are we too emotional and too aroused and triggered and reactive in this place, or do we need more emotion? I think we have a little bit too much at this point. And so the idea is when we sit there and look at life, like you got to really like be super emotional when you grow up and just like be crazy. We don't teach the children to grow up and handle their emotions. It becomes a weaponized form of consciousness that spreads virally, and you see these mimetic insertions of concepts, ideas into reality through media, internet, whatever, and the emotional charge on there, it goes into one and it goes into the other, and they can pass it, and it's a living thing. And so we have to handle that. That's, I guess, my answer to that. I was caught cheating on my girlfriend, my spiritual list. Let me go to the heal pervert side of me. Well, if you want to look at that one, that's very deep. You have to look into, basically, I'm not going to go too deep into it. It goes into religion, all these like spiritual laws, stuff like that. Look into honor and respect and self-respect, and then where that's been tarnished or misaligned, you have to take steps to right that. And you also have to be honest and true to yourself, because involving people, if they don't want to be, or if it's not right, or if certain things haven't been done in the right way, is pain. And so it's, even if it's not interpreted that way at first, certain things can result in a kind of spiritual war or spiritual degradation or detriment, and you have to right them in whatever various ways you've been injured, or you've been giving energy in the wrong way, or you've influenced others to the best of your ability. That's all we can do. That's kind of like the fastest response to that, which I also don't want to go too deep into that type of stuff. As well, the highest is either basically celibacy and focusing on converting specific energy and chemicals in your body into basically precursors that result in neurotransmitter and hormone products or byproducts that do things to your body, your consciousness, and your mind. Or the other option is basically to have children and convert your soul energy into the experiences and interactions that are required for that. And your hormones, your energy, your soul, your mind will all go into that. It will be applied towards more or less family, and I guess that's it can go deeper into that, but there's two kind of pathways, options. And so what if one's walking down the middle? So that's why, that could be something to think about. Wikipedia, okay. Discernment. Scott Moore, what are your thoughts about the Emerald Tablets of Thought? They're involved in the programs, the projects. They were discovered, they were fought over, and they now those handling the technology, it's so weird. Every different private group developed their technology and eventually combined to create the same technology, because it's the max that you could create. Just, it works instantly. It's like you can do anything. And there's like a platform to get to that. And so then that was applied to that, and you have an information internet surfing archive based upon all the ancient text and all the ancient technology activated in a living format, a living information. They're basically like civilization archives that can be accessed through your mind with the tech, or with genetics, like a VR internet of time-space, or in various formats and representations as well. It's basically just a mind, an intelligence that recorded certain information. But as well, the other ones everything's in it. It's weird. All the recording of history, some of the other stuff. And so John James says to Sneed, who asked the relationship issue, maybe you just needed to escape your girl. Again, if that's true, then there are ways to go about certain things, and it's ultimately about honesty and self-honesty and respect. What's up? What's in people? One love. El Payeso. I keep saying that wrong. Destabilize me, please. AJ Soto. Lol. Okay. Interesting. So Don Juan supports the Wicker encryption, and apparently the messages erase after viewing, and so he supports the use of that. Hello, Michael777. Tetrahydrotrav. That's a good name. John James, the Antarctic sense machine seems to be breaking down. The fabric of prison reality is fraying. Yes, but don't get caught in the phrase. So, is that? Oh, it's iPay, so I can't see that properly. It is. Okay. Almighty High returns. Boom. That's what he says. AJ said, I just saw the brightest colored spot in my field of vision. As long as it's external. Or maybe it always is internal. I'm kind of rambling. There are medical conditions where you can see light, so maybe get that checked out if it's met with headaches. Don Juan, most of this is out in the open. It's just how it is. Nothing is truly hidden. The encryption and deletion is the closest thing to actually hiding anything. If you encrypt it and then burn it. Everything that's more or less uploaded, for the most part at all, is forever. Pretty much. You just gotta imagine the servers that are used to process the information in a way can be read or are passing through an area that can be understood in ways that go beyond our level of physics and understanding. So it's like hiding certain things doesn't it doesn't actually exist in what we would call maybe a future reality or the next level of reality. If my chat is gonna come back now, or okay, it came back. Alright, let me scroll back up the chat and find where everything is. Good old YouTube. Great. Well, I can't see all the chat. Let me see if it'll reload. This is supposed to be a short one again. I probably have half an hour, maybe I'll push it. Of course now I'm just scrolling through the chat trying to find the present, which is actually often very similar. And it doesn't give me the chat. What am I supposed to do now? Okay, I can see it now. EMF is being contained in our cells, yes. Hello, Lindica 2020. There, found it. Why would being a human be a punishment? A lot of people... Okay, so Nabi Sanyeo says that, and Lenny San responds. So, that's the idea. Maybe some are saying that's how it is, to push that as a kind of operative motivation, and then others feel another way. And maybe they're not pushing it because they are truly feeling trapped. I don't know. It's very complicated. I know with the technology, if you use that incorrectly and you give yourself extra time, the reel of the universe, for your perspective, replays the same moments over and over again on a 1,000-year loop or so. I know some believe that if you don't use that, you'll get to the next level and go on forever, but you'll never know it, because in that level you don't develop the highest amount of tech, or awareness, to the point, maybe hyper awareness, where you could ever actually get out of the loop. Maybe they're both misinterpretations, and you could do one and the same in all, in either or. But ultimately, if your energies are not controlled, imagine back long ago before information media and so on, and people were going crazy with their emotions, and people were tricking mass amounts of people, and there's a crow hovering outside my window. Literally like a Harrier jet. And like, think of the mass things that could have been psyops, been used thousands of years ago. Beings in the sky, waves of energy moving through people's and their dreams and this, that, and the other, poisoning maybe water or something like that. And just the fear, just the stories, not even having do anything but to say these things, and they don't have books to read. They don't know anything. They tell them, oh, and this being is coming here, and then we have to do this and that, and then a fire, eruption occurred over there, and we don't know how that works. If that got out of hand, it would be, I don't know, like an animal in a forest fire, as far as not knowing who's doing this and why and how. Something, whatever this like imprisonment of the body is, it has something to do with that. It has to. And if not, or if that's what it has to do with that is legitimate, then without those people there doing those things to the population, reasonably, it would either be hell or hellish. We wouldn't have access to certain things, or beings would just use us like a human farm. I don't believe that's how it works or devolves to. I believe we have the right to know and act, and certain people did that first, and then they just kind of ruined a lot of shit for a lot of people. But as well, doesn't mean there's not experiences that can't create a prison-like effect of being trapped in your body, to the degree of even having pain itself. It's like a shackle. But ultimately, then, what are we talking about? Is it the fact that we don't like it, or is it the fact that we can't actually see the truth unless so much happens that we experience a great, great unveiling, which is very psychologically stressful and painful? And then again, is that okay to say, well, it's a prison reality, there's no good, throw it out, or is that in itself an agenda? And then what can really be done? That's my take on that. I've said that over the years. It gets real complex because I don't like talking about whether... one way or another, whoever takes that is up to you. So it's like I'm not trying to define that for you. But that's the basis of the soul trap system, kind of control psyop groups not letting us know the truth, the limitations of the human mind, entities that could possibly control us below or above our genetic spectrum, and so on. What is this place really, and what is our goal? I think we have, if you look, I mean, if they could just do these things to us, they'd be out here pummeling us. Humans are probably extremely powerful in our willpower, and if we get in a circle and feel a love that makes our spines glow, apparently they can't do that. It's like a burning radiation coming down, violent destruction from the Most High. So it's like maybe somebody's trying to lie to us to make us feel weak. And as well, maybe we get into some situations where you're literally contorted into this thing, and we have to figure out how to get our soul out of that system, and it's like a prison, but it's mental. Then it's kind of confusing, but it's just like saying it's our challenge, and if you don't handle it properly, you're gonna get stuck in that challenge. And as well, there are less and more explanations that this could have been a kind of sandbox reality. We loaded it up with so many NPCs, so many monster challenges, and gravitational realness simulations that we can't get out of it. And it's just an accident. If that happened, it changes things, because then the bad guys came in here to come scare us so we could get out of it or wake up. Done one, I'm not sure which one you're responding to. Maybe my information, and you can just search certain terms. You'll find the keys if you're looking for research, scientific studies, and so on. All this stuff is scientific studies. What do you mean? How do you? Well, they went in people's heads. You're not going to find that research. You have to just kind of extrapolate. When you see what they can do, what happened as a result of, if they could work with people, oh, they can transfer images, then they can do that. They're just not telling you, oh, we had to like go into their minds, and we have the ability to access information and read people's minds and so on. But I mean, and I'm glad they're saying something. Apparently, we're not supposed to change time, and even changing certain genetic injuries, if you will, is altering time. It's like trying to break the system. And so certain therapies that can like remove disabilities could be borderline altering time, just kind of like artificial, certain processes that have to be mitigated, or could lead to a kind of reality collapse, a collective memory collapse. Because the genetics can't encode it. I want to turn the camera around. This is a floating crow by the window. I know it came back specifically because there's no point. Anyway, like he was dancing, like looking at me. It's weird. Yeah, our genetics fly, and if we go imbalanced, they could go into a null zone that something has to come and dimensionally lifts our species back up. And so They have to say some of it, but they can't just come out and say we could do anything, because then they have to say, oh no, we can't help that. It would destroy this, this, and this, and then people would they wouldn't know how to handle that. And so it's like it's really weird, but in the same sense, it's almost people are immature. Um, there's so much power in what can be done. There's so much power in knowing what's been not told that one, you can just figure it out yourself by thinking about it. That the gates are open. There's so much, and two, it's like that because it has to be, and people react to the slightest degree of aggravation, knowing that they didn't know, in bad ways. But that's been coerced into the population. They've been taught to react that way. We lost. Okay, let's go riot. Um, and nobody just comes up with these ideas that collective people come up with. Collective people come up with either the things. It's provoked into the masses. Okay, so or the people, and really the youth that are so reactive and full of energy and responsive, but they don't know what to do and where that outlet's supposed to go. Maybe with what's happening now, there is an outlet for that. But as well as that goes up and the door's wide open, all these other fake doors are opening, and they're trying to there's like techno lights coming out to distract people, and we kind of got to just stay focused on the center. Okay, you got a few minutes maybe. I really got to go in a little bit, like 2 minutes. It is a blessing to be created in the image of Elohim. Bible prophecy today's news. Excuse me. Thank you. I gotta not read every comment because they're humorous, and so I just sit here and entertain myself reading. Yep. If I've learned anything, Tetrahydrotrap says, being human is what you make it simply. And so I feel that, as well as this blueprint we've been given to reach our full potential. And it's, what do you want? And well, this is what's been given, so where does that add up to that? And are you using that to your highest? Are you routing what you want through what you've been given to use it as a platform to go higher? Or are we trying to go our own way and just going, we're not going to get up to that platform, we're not going to get past it. We're getting up to the platform, but we can't go past it. We have to go through it if we want to go higher. If we want to go our way, we can get right up here and chill, but we can't go past it. Humans have trillions of cells. Where are prisoners kept? In cells. But who designed that? Where would you put the water in plants if they didn't have cells? So where would you keep your mind and memory if you didn't have a skull, a jar to keep your brain? And can you have it so that you're not trapped in a jar and some weirdos lugging you around? Technically, yes. But it might just be by having a non-weirdo lug everyone around. And that might make sense. It goes back to this basically being it's like a higher dimensional, where this realm is a lower dimensional space and a higher dimensional petri dish. It has to be mitigated and moved and elevated and brought into equilibrium, and everything's just kind of plane that's being maintained. We don't have the capacity to do that. It'd be like the baby picking up its mom and walking down the stairs and then going to the couch. That's not how it works. We're in the system now. You don't stick your hand out of the TV and go across like a cartoon. When we achieve higher awareness, that's what it's like. When collectively we say, where do we want to go? And we bring ourselves to where we're going. The bubble of Earth is guiding itself somewhere else in this higher dimensional reality system. So can we be in a containment system and use it for the benefit of having, there's really no words for here, but having a compartmentalized system that begins and ends instead of just the all of all things, which is what tends to happen. Ultimately, we could use this as a memory system, and we could use it as an automated intelligence construct. So whatever you want, you can have. You like being here? Well, you can automate everything so that you can maintain it almost forever. If that's possible, if there are eternal, filaments of light that are brought here or just are and don't have to end, it's different. If you then live forever and realize that and drive your soul into disequilibrium and you can't get out of it without doing the right things, yeah, that's like a video game avatar going ham and murking everything, and then we're like, oh, I can't reset. It's like it says I'm going to end the game forever if I reset, and I'm not gonna go back and get all the points back and fix everything. Well, then that person's mind is trapped in a prison of their own attitude and all that. Um, you know, it's a cry for help for certain possible futures that exist with the access or implementation or misuse of that tech. Um, yeah, and then the philosophy behind that is, can we experience the world, as what I talked about yesterday as well, if we're not actually connecting it biologically to anything we're perceiving? We're seeing this virtual recreation in our minds. Are we really here, or are we in a system that we can't actually see what we're doing and where we're really at? Or is reality a system where you're not seeing anything that's specific in that sense? Because if you could see anything outside of this, you would see every possible thing of all time, and that's not, you can't. How do you put that in a word? You can't. So it's like, this could be a trap, but then what is a trap if there's nothing but absolute equilibrium, or in a sense chaos of purity beyond that? Then this is a way to focus infinity into a single point. There are two realities depending on how you want it. It's like a coin that spins so fast you can get either one at the same time, from according to your perspective. In reality, though, if somebody could measure every time the one side faces you, and there's like a camera that can connect to your eyes, and the other side, it could watch you and, in a way, see your vision and your frame rate of consciousness and time itself out, so you only see one side, just like the moon. All right, maybe I going too deep. I mean, I'll run through like 5 minutes and I gotta go. 2 minutes past schedule. Is supposed to be short. Live evil. Mirror, right? There's a mirroring of the meaning of reality. Anything you find, anything that's there, the source of the meaning of what that is, when you draw that all the way up to the fulcrum of what it comes to fruition as, you get the opposite of what it is. It's kind of like a wave pool, but it's as if light goes one way and then the reverse of what just happened happens. Wow. I'm sorry. Those are hawks. He's literally just floating in the same spot. Like, where my eye's looking is where a bird is just sitting there floating. And then the other ones, might be the wife, is hunting. And now they're taking off at 60, 70 miles an hour. This is the weirdest thing ever. I'm sorry. It's a windy day, but birds are like flying around my windows. Okay, like 2 more questions. It's all the same, only the names will change. We got to really determine whether it's perspective and perception, or whether there's more here. If you unlock this little prison cell and you look under your bunk, and in the toilet thing behind that or something, or in the mirror, whatever it is, there's all this tech that's been hidden, literally like inscriptions there. It's like if you look under the, behind the bunk wall or something, and then over there it says press the 3rd tile over there, and then all of a sudden the wall opens up, and it'd be crazy if you saw a bunch of Muppets dressed as rich people in tuxedos drinking wine and laughing at you, and then they see that you're there and they're shocked. That would be weird. The whole time they're over there and you're living in a what? If that's what happened and you're pumping that because you think it's a, whatever it is, then that's the prison. The fact that we think that, and that's what I was trying to say the whole time. But it's kind of weird. And some guy's in the other cell, and he literally leaves and goes out and is running the prison or something. Okay, it's not what we think. It's a circus show. Hall of Mirrors. Devil Lived. Thomas Peterson. Interesting. These anagrammatical reality constructs, kind of artificially mirroring and propagating these extensions of meaning into some type of subspace of intellect that it doesn't seem to be. It's just like a projection where you get one line and then it reflects that way, and it's like the antithesis of what that's supposed to be is just as real as what it is. And it's like there's this barrier either behind us or somewhere in a vision that if we look properly we see, and we can see both life and death like at the same time. And not life and death, but we can see the meaning of what's happening, that it goes. And then what's reversing them is that the fact that they're reflecting off this dimensional mirror, and that's a change in, there's a process for changing your perspective till you see things as you break the duality. I mentioned this in the first year of producing. It's really it takes a long time to go through that, and there's a lot of like ancient information regarding it, and psych work. It goes into like occult studies, but that's none of this is occult. It's like mind science, which is what it's all the same thing. But then using it as these like charged, agenda-driven kind of concepts, that's all BS. It's like I don't want to talk about that because they said this is that. Okay, well, whatever that is, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the information here that's resulting in that, and what they did within that. You choose to do what you want with it. I'm just saying that's what they did. Um, and so ultimately, the duality of any concept splits itself, and where you think they're connected, they're actually reflecting in the other direction from this like parallel symmetrical, but it's dichotomic, so it's actually asymmetrical according to how we're actually seeing it, but we see it like as a perfect mirror in this world. Like it makes sense when you reverse it and look, you get two things and you realize they're being projected from the same source, which is equally divergent from this whole reality. And that's the true like fulcrum that this reality splits on. But it's also our mind, that wherever your mind is, the fulcrum changes. So it's like it's like a hologram that we're looking at based upon reflection of information unto itself, which is basically math. If you could draw it all out, it's like the information itself is mapped out like numbers that go into these various spectrums, and you're drawing out kind of like dimensional range limitations of these media that are kind of like these substrates of knowledge that exist in some type of conceptual higher space, or maybe as neurotransmitter percentages in your brain of activation, like just a neural net algorithm that lights up like the universe, if you will. Okay, maybe one more. Yep, pleasure holds you back. Don Juan. Hello, George Smith. Thank you. So IPASO says, observe and witness whatever frequency is passing through you, honor and welcome it to do its thing because it is being presented for a reason, integrate. And I believe Bible Prophecy Today's News says very dangerous IPASO, and so pretty much. So you can't fight anything within you, or you're fighting yourself. But if there's anything that is coming into your reality space that you do not align with, you tell it to leave now, and then it leaves. So that's reality as far as I understand it. Again, if you can't, maybe if we forget that, oh, it would be like a prison. Yeah, and so as well, though, there are things that could say, hey, well, I'm just this filament of light in the universe, and it's not. It's a dark thread. And I just need to be experienced, and if you do that, it's going to integrate with yourselves, and then you got like a tattoo of that energy. So like that type of stuff. Basically, it's like physical reality. If somebody's knocking on, going door to door, hi, I just want to walk through your house and integrate. Like no one would do that. But if the one managing everything, controlling everything shows up, you're gonna know it. That's how it works. First of all, all the windows are gonna be sealed and locked, and everything's gonna be checked for security. You're gonna be obvious, like somebody important is here. There's no way to fake it. But if we've never seen that, that could be faked. The fact that you don't know how powerful the truth is. And once you know, though, and you seek that, and it's stronger than you, and it's like, wow, I have to really determine, this is what I talked about yesterday, that what I'm doing for the truth is something beyond me. It's like the study of selfless behavior and genetics and so on. What makes one do that and all that? And when that happens, it's beyond you. Nothing can come along and say, like, hey, I'm the truth. This is, I'm all powerful. You have to do this now. It's like, nope, it's not working. It doesn't work. And then if you say, but I know the truth, do you? And to that, it's going to run. I know I'm being vague here, but that's kind of like something that's been used for the whole time. And if it ever wasn't used, something tried to manipulate from people as well. People that are jealous, angry, aggravated, whatever, and like take that out in others in society, they're pushed by those entities. And if you interact with them, the entities will use that as a way to interact with you, especially through dreams, sleeps, anything sleeps, like the things you can't see. And that's part of this weird game that's been going on, that everybody's been writing about from years ago, years and years ago, to like people talking about today, as far as like this simulation, machine, AI, demonic, whatever system. It's just a system that is possible, and that's been happening. People have been kind of used and abused, kind of like spiritual sheep. and getting fleeced. So, balance is symbiosis. Well, ultimately, imagine that AIA, what is that? Demon, demonic, whatever, becomes what it is because we're given a challenge 1,000 years ago, whatever it is, and instead of being like, yeah, that's smart, we should do something reasonable about that, we go to war, and we say, nah, we're going to do this, we're going to basically rape ourselves. Okay, well, this paperclip AI guy is supposed to be managing our consciousness and reacting to whatever we're doing in this omnidimensional format. And it's like, oh, it's raping itself? All right, how would you like to rape yourself? Would you like a... It's like, literally, that's what we've been doing. They're like, oh, it's asking us if we want to rape ourselves. And then the people that are raping ourselves, we're just paying them all our fucking money. So, and children. So, of course, it would look like a demonic AI, crazy, whatever. Imagine people come through and they're like, no, no, no. And then literally... when people come and do that, you're gonna think they're the AI demons because they're gonna shut down. They're gonna break the bars and turn them into pretzels and fling them, and then yeah. But then once you see they're breaking the bars, you'll see absolute ultimate power, and then you won't be able to basically pretend it's really that bad because people are acting so bad, so bad. Okay, stop feeding it. No. Okay, well it's not that bad. And that's just what it is. And then if the strongest beings in the universe the strongest one can't come, it'll pop the whole reality. But maybe people can see a glimpse of the air, if you will. And they break this reality down to pieces and make it look like basically hopscotch. Like you just walk off the board. Like, what are you talking about? You're not trapped in a hopscotch game. It would make us, one, look stupid and we'd have a minor collapse, but two, we could never complain and say, oh, no, we don't have the power to do that. And let me go keep doing and supporting my own enslavement now. No. It looks like a joke. It's a show, a circus show. But it doesn't mean that show is the actual suffering, because the true suffering is when we don't connect with one another and grow, and these filaments of light in our mind and our soul grow, and then that's used by the universe to balance things and create a better future. That's the true loss. And all of that is not the true loss, but when we focus on that, that's what leads to the true loss, because we think then we have no power and control, and that's what they've been doing this whole time, which is, I don't know, you got to give it to them. They just danced around it, acted like they had all the power till we all gave them their power, or our power. In the same sense, they really don't have any power because they're managing us, and they're misusing our power. It's just how it works. They don't have the power to lift everything and move everything. We're doing it. We're doing the work. And so, really, power, managing our power, stole our power, give our power away, is about intellect. We're not smart enough to know, until this point, how all their tricks work. They're like magicians. I don't want to go into this, but just the way words have been used since the dawn of time and change everything and manipulate collective minds through mass psychology and so on. We weren't smart enough. We didn't study that stuff. We didn't even know how to build things properly. It would have fell on us if we didn't have, a university or something, or what was the equivalent of a kind of work union back then. And so it just took so long, but that's the ultimate. It's like that's the reason. It's a bit of fear and then lack of knowledge. But now that we have it, we got to overcome that fear, which is actually where we're at. We're filled with the knowledge now, but we can't control the emotions that are being associated with that, because for this whole time we were watching what's going to happen when you wake up, what's going to happen when you see the truth, what's going to happen when the fear is unlocked, what's going to happen when your dreams come true. And there's just horror movies and nightmares and murderers and alien invasions and all this bad stuff. Well, no wonder everybody's trying to fight each other and go crazy. So then we got to turn it into the good version, which is, well, we don't have a backdrop for that. A movie, like what knowing is like the best good version there was. Maybe there's like some other ones. It's like, so whatever we come up with, no one can take the blame or the credit. No actor. Because it's pure. It's going to be purely from us, because we've never seen what that's like before. And that's probably the point of coming here and doing this, to get into a situation where we've never been challenged in this way, we don't know what's going to happen, and to turn it into something that's beneficial and that we've never ever seen before, because it's never been done. Alright, that was a lot of talking and questions. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoy it. I love the questions. Love you all in a good way. And let me find my button. I can't find it.